Welcome, everybody, to Behind the Counter with Rich and John. I am neither Rich or John.
You're Andrew.
I am Andrew. This is Rich. Hey,
How
Rich.
you doing? How's everybody?
And
out
John
there?
on the couch.
Hey.
How do you like the saltine?
The what?
The saltine. You're sitting on a giant saltine couch.
It's very uncomfortable.
I know. It's the worst thing in the world, right?
It's all lap and just like awkward.
We're changing it. We're getting like little bucket seats for
It'd be
everybody.
awesome.
Yeah,
It'd
because
be really, really good.
everybody hates that couch and everybody hates that chair. Is that chair uncomfortable?
I'm
for you?
all right with the chair. I'm a little
Okay.
uncomfortable with the desk.
The gray
legs.
bar.
It's like right by your
legs.
crotch.
Yeah. Well, it's just like kind of crushing my thigh because
I don't know. I can't do anything about
Huge
that,
muscular
though.
thigh.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry your thighs are in the way. But this is the show where you guys discuss everything geeky, everything comic books.
everything comic book related. We want to deliver the kind of like a conversational aspect about comic books. John and I have a history. We worked at a comic store together for about 5 years, and we literally talk shop with people all day coming in and out, and we didn't exclude anybody, and it was a pretty cool experience. I think a lot of people got a lot out of it, and this is kind of like the next generation of that, where we don't have to go anywhere. You come and see us online.
Come and see us.
Which is great. That's why I started the network, so I don't have to go anywhere, and everybody comes to me.
It's a lazy man's conversation.
It is. It is.
You got a nice curtain behind you too. You just close the curtain.
I just close the curtain and just get away. Well, this is the first Behind the Counter. We've done a couple test shows throughout the last couple of weeks,
Right.
and I think we are ready now to launch.
So this is it. This is the
This is
launch.
it?
This is, I guess this is the launch, but we don't have an image. So hopefully by Monday or Tuesday, we'll come up with some sort of image, and we'll put it on iTunes and every other place. But I think this will be the launch.
Beautiful.
Right on.
Excellent.
So
Right
episode 1.
Episode 1. All right. So first topic we would like to talk about, which I didn't see it. I had a little problem with Time Warner Cable this week.
Yeah, problem with your on-demand service.
My on-demand service, my cable, my internet, everything went out. It was a big ordeal. But HBO had they're doing a series of documentaries every Monday night at 9 o'clock. And the one that came out this Monday was called, was it Real Life Superheroes?
Just called superheroes.
Just called Superheroes.
Just called superheroes.
Which is about real people dressed like, they're not dressed like actual characters like Spider-Man or Superman, but they come up with their own identities and they go out and not necessarily fight crime, but they go out and do good for people.
Pretty much. I mean, it's frightening watching this thing. I mean, it's completely brilliant. It's very, very smart. But it's basically people who are homegrown vigilantes who basically put on really ridiculous costumes and they, walk around California, New York, and they try and, patrol the area. They do a lot of good for the homeless, but it's weird because they allude to everyone having some type of like violent or dark like trauma happening to them at an early age that they never really address. But they had great, let me pull up a name. They had one guy, this chubby Filipino kid named Mr. Extreme, who his biggest influence was Power Rangers. And there was, who else was there? It was Master Legend, who doesn't know any karate. He sounds like a karate guy, but he basically looks like a Grateful Dead fan who rides around in a thing called Danger Van, cracks beers. He supposedly has powers. He's psychic.
He claims all these things.
All these things. Super speed. He talks to God at one point.
That's great.
My favorite name it came from a story of two people. One guy was named Z-Man, who basically comes downstairs one day and says to his wife, like, I'm Z-Man, I'm a superhero. And she's like, you're ridiculous, you need to take this thing off. You are, like, I'm going to divorce you. And he kept on going out patrolling. And eventually she's like, you know what? I got to keep up with this. And she basically comes out of her house looking like a big goth girl with like a demon cat on her shirt.
What's the name of the show again?
Superheroes. Her name was Apocalypse Meow. Which is one of the best names I've ever heard for a superhero.
It really is. When I saw the synopsis of the show, that was the name that jumped out at me and grabbed me.
Oh, it's true.
Apocalypse Meow.
What channel is this on?
It's
HBO.
on HBO.
Why isn't? Oh yeah. Okay.
It was on HBO. And the first thing, I mean, I'm not alone here. I love comic books. I grew up reading comic books. I don't want to put on a costume and help people. I'd rather help people in street clothes, discreetly. Out of the public eye. I don't have superpowers. Nobody has superpowers. Nobody will ever have superpowers.
And you look terrible as a superhero.
I probably would.
Like these people.
Yeah. And I don't have the shape for it.
These people don't have the shape for it either.
I definitely don't have the non-lazy factor to do it. But, and it's sad to say, the first thing I thought of when I heard about this is, oh my God, who's going to get shot in the face first?
But that's the brilliant thing about it is you actually have one guy named the Dark Avenger who's a karate teacher, young dude, kind of tall, good-looking dude, and he goes to Washington Square Park with his sidekick, which is the cameraman, And his name is the Cameraman.
Does he have a costume?
No, he just wears like a T-shirt, backwards hat, like what you expect of like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles character. Like he looks like a cameraman, and they videotape like pot dealers in Washington Square Park, and he gets threatened at one point where you think this guy is gonna get shot in the face. Like it is horrifying. I don't know what you get out of this.
That's very upsetting. I mean, like, did they show the tape of it, or did they show?
They actually show it. They actually show like a dude like 3 times his size, like, you know, why are you taping me? Why are you taping me? Like in his face, angry as hell.
I'm watching the trailer right now, which I have to watch this documentary. It's a documentary, right?
It's a documentary.
I'm amazed how ridiculous they look.
They're terrible.
And their outfits are even worse.
But that's what's great about it is like you have all these people who are comic book fans, and they have terrible names, terrible costumes. It's just bad choices through and through. And that's what makes it so fascinating, because they're all social misfits at some point, and they all want to be Batman. But no one is going to be Batman. Yeah. No one is going to be the cool billionaire who's in great shape. You're a fat guy who looks like a Ninja Turtle.
I mean, I was telling him on the ride here, like, it just seems like these guys, from what I've been reading the entire week, it just seems like these guys saw the Kick-Ass movie, you know, with the happy ending and the rocket pack and the whole nine and Nicolas Cage screaming, and didn't read the Kick-Ass comic book, which was horrifying. You know, the Kick-Ass comic book is essentially, you know, what not to do if you're a comic book fan. You know, don't put on a costume because you will get crippled and you will lose anything you care about and just end up like a broken down, shriveled mess of a man.
But I mean, you know, it is a ridiculous concept. But why haven't we seen a superhero come out? You know, like a Batman come out in all these years, like someone that's legitimate. Like he has this unbelievable cape and he, you know, outfit, and nobody knows who he is. Like, how come that hasn't happened?
Because if you're really good at that type of stuff, like knitting yourself a costume and like working out, you're not spending your time on the streets at like 3 o'clock in the morning walking around Washington Heights trying to look for trouble. Because number one, if you do that, the day one they do that, they're getting shot in the chest.
Exactly.
They're getting shot in the chest or tasered.
Yeah, somebody's going to take him down.
The cops are the best part, because like there's one guy who's walking around, and the cops come up to him and say, you know, it's like, what are you doing tonight? He's like, oh, you know, I'm patrolling, looking for like the stalker. And he's like, do you have the taser on you? He's like, yeah, I've got a taser on me. He's like, don't go near the campus. Like, and they turn to him, and he's like, I'm just worried about him.
That's upsetting. That's so upsetting. Does anybody have Wolverine claws?
No. They go to Comic-Con, and they don't go to Comic-Con. They hand out food for the homeless. They do good, like in terms of like awareness.
Yeah, but it's not like.
But you don't have to do that in a costume. You don't have to do that as a gig. Like this one guy moves out of his apartment and he goes to live in his van, and that's it. Like you're a homeless dude who.
I can't wait to see this tonight.
Tremendous.
It makes you a knife to the face magnet.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, look at these people. But some of them just look like there's one guy with like oh my God, I'm watching this guy with like some crazy mask on.
There's like 4 people who are like all tattoo artists and all like recovering alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous people. And they all, like one dude has like a floppy Spawn mask. And like Legion of Doom spikes coming out.
Who's the one with the helmet and the cape and the fatigues?
That's Master Legend.
That guy is fantastic.
He's the best character in the whole thing.
Oh my God. And he has spikes on his arm.
Of course he does.
Yeah, he has spikes on it. Oh God, this is the greatest.
That's the dude who all he does is crack beers.
He has a fake badge.
Yeah.
Wow.
With like Law and Order written on it.
From the show.
And weird Queens references. They're all obsessed with Kenny Genovese. The Kenny Genovese murder.
Like
really?
Somebody should have done something.
Yeah, they're all like super into like apathy. We are against apathy. People need to do more. Like you need to stay home.
Yeah, it's cool. Start a foundation.
Donate money.
Kids in need.
I mean, it's awesome. Like, God bless them. Hopefully, they don't get hurt, you know, or anything like that, or don't come into anything serious, because that's traumatizing, man. You don't want to hear that happen, and especially in the newspaper, you don't want to see like guy dressed in costume gets severely murdered, because it'll be like, why is this guy going out there anyway?
If I saw the vigilante spider in the streets,
best name.
I would punch him in the face. I would just punch him in the face
spider.
And tell him he's not Spider-Man.
You could be the first villain.
I can. You know, I would love to be a villain.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be a superhero. I would want to be a villain.
Well, you love cats, so you already have the cat thing.
I do have the cat thing going, so I'm set.
Yeah. All
Meow.
So good.
Superheroes, HBO. If you have HBO on
Check it
demand,
out.
check it out. If you're in the area, I don't think Time Warner has it.
It's like the weirdest episode of American Life I've ever saw.
Next on the docket, we have. It's hard to come back from that.
Let's talk about comics.
Let's talk about some comics. All right. We all know the big news the last few weeks, you know, like the new Spider-Man and the whole nine. Usually when characters die, you know, a lot of kind of press comes out with it. There's absolutely no press came out with this except like on the comic websites. Arguably one of the greatest characters ever created, Hellboy, in the last issue of Hellboy, there's like a little miniseries called The Fury. Last issue came out this week, and this is the death of the Hellboy character. Now, the Hellboy character has been around forever. Mike Mignola created it, pretty much did everything himself until one point where he would just script the issues and have these amazing artists like Duncan Fedrego and Guy Davis doing the BPRD stuff, and he's doing the main Hellboy book. Now, it matters because it's a major character, and you always kind of get sad with the death of a major character, but the story is fantastic, and the thing I really like about it is that it leaves it so open, and Hellboy's adventures are so open since his inception that you can have a story of him essentially from the late 40s to the modern day, and they can throw anything at you. How did you like the...
I thought it was tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm a huge fan of BPRD and of Hellboy. I mean, it covers, like, I love, like, the old Lovecraftian horror stuff, and it's a big part of where they go with this. And once Hellboy left the group, BPRD, they both went their separate directions, and they've had massive, crazy storylines that no one ever talks about. Yeah. And the fact that they're ending Hellboy, where he's gone from, like, a 1940s World War II character who investigates a cult with a team to now having ties to, like, King Arthur mythology.
Right.
And, like, these incredible, vast, beautiful storylines. And this was, like, completely tragic and an incredible fight.
Right. It was a beautifully drawn issue. He gets into a fight with Nemu, who's an evil witch, turns essentially into a giant dragon, and then you kind of see in one panel, you see the Ogre Jihad behind her when she gets, like, really big, and then...
Which is, like, where Hellboy is almost always his father's.
Yeah, from, like, the right hand of Doom, and if you saw the movie, like, it's the thing flying through space in the movie.
Which is all, like Lovecraftian, like, elder gods. These monsters that live in space.
And come to Earth and try to dominate everybody. And he's carrying around Excalibur, too, at this point.
Yep.
Yep. Which is, it
tore out his eye for a favor.
Right. And in this issue, he dies, and then, it's a very sad death, because he wins the battle, but then the spirit of this witch appears and pulls out his flaming heart and says, "I'm going to take you to hell with me." And you're kind of like, yeah. And you're kind of like, oh man, what's going to happen? But then they have the teaser for the next story arc, which is Hellboy in Hell, which is something that they've never done before. And I think that's going to be all Mike Mignola, right?
Yep, that's Mike Mignola's return to art.
How do you think they'll bring him back if they do?
I mean, one of the things that Mignola said early on when he actually announced this, that he's actually killing him off, is he really is a big proponent of keeping somebody dead. It makes the impact stronger. He's done it before with other characters in BPRD. I do think that he's going to keep him dead for a very long period of time and do, like, this afterlife storyline. So it doesn't really matter if they bring him back, but if they do, I mean, it's always a possibility that they'll use some awesome occult storyline.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's something as a fan, for me personally, I mean, it would be cool if they kept him in Hell for a while, and then he kind of stuck with the BPRD stuff, and somewhere down the line, like 5 or 10 years from now, you have the big return of Hellboy.
And they haven't had any interactions between the two books at all.
No, not at all.
Years.
Yeah, ever since he left after that big storyline, and he just kind of quit the BPRD. And
which is also left another death when they did the Roger the Homunculus storyline.
Right.
Where he died also, and he's been dead ever since. He was a fan favorite.
Yeah, Mignola does a great job of that. I mean, like, you can get away with that stuff on, like, an indie book because it's not like a legacy character.
Absolutely.
Where you'd have to, like, revitalize the fan base and bring him back in a big way. But arguably, Hellboy is up there. Hellboy's right up there with, Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man as far as a character goes. It's a genius character, and it's so art-driven and so story-driven that it's completely amazing. Mignola knows his stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's all in graphic novel format. Like, pick up a trade paperback. They really are fun and rewarding, and there's a lot to it. And you'll everyone who picks it up really does enjoy it.
Absolutely. If you're wondering about any Hellboy book to pick up the first trade. I think it's the Right Hand of Doom.
I think it's isn't the Seed of Destruction or Conqueror Worm?
No, I think it's either Seed of Destruction.
I think it's Seed of Destruction.
Right Hand of Doom. It's one of them.
One of them. They're all very good.
Yeah,
they're all very, very good.
Very interchangeable too. All right, next up, Fantastic Four. Everybody knows Johnny Storm died a while ago. Now there's a book called FF, which is the other core members along with Spider-Man and a bunch of bad guys. The big teaser this week was that they showed a piece of art depicting, done by Joe Quesada, depicting all 4 members in their original uniforms. And people kind of started talking about, is Fantastic Four 600, which is coincidentally, if you kept the book going, this would be the 600 issue, and they're thinking that Johnny's going to come back. So
yeah, they every day they've been teasing a little bit, showing different covers for different books, and then they revealed that they're coming back to number 600. So you're wondering if actually the other book, Future Foundation, is going to stick around. And they just revealed today that Future Foundation is staying on. Jonathan Hickman, who we focused on last week, is writing both of their books, and they're both like totally rewarding, awesome stories. But it's really up to, we don't know if Giant Storm is going to be coming back in that storyline.
I think it's too soon. I think it's too soon for them to bring him back. You know, there's a major death. Keep him dead for a while. Keep the FF stuff
hope so.
going. You know, I mean, like they could do something completely awesome because it left the whole Annihilus thing open.
Yep.
You know, and Reed holding the ultimate nullifier in the negative zone,
Threatening to blow him away.
and Baby Annihilus kind of smiling at him and then taking out Johnny Storm's tattered
Costume.
shirt. You know. Really dramatic ending, but it's awesome that they're continuing with original numbering and continuing with FF. So it's going to be two excellent books. You know, they tried to do that once before when they did that Marvel Knights Fantastic Four, which started out so strong and just ended so weak.
I never liked it.
No,
I was never a fan.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of it. It was good. The art was beautiful. That's where we first got Steve McNiven.
right?
But I love stuff like this. Because it really harkens back to like old school. Fantastic Four, the dynamic of them and the family aspect of them.
Well, they revealed that FF is continuing. In November, they're going to release number 12, and I guess this is like the tie-in somehow with 600 in that.
Well, it's just going to be two side-by-side books. Now,
Yeah.
you know, and since Hickman's writing him, he's created his own new universe now with these characters that you know something's going to pop up somewhere else.
Which has never happened. They've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
really had a successful spin-off with Fantastic Four.
No,
it's
it-
very, very insulated.
It always falls very flat too, you know. And I always felt that way about them too when you kind of mix them in with the regular Marvel universe, because they're also New York-based characters, and then you have a giant team of the A-listers like the Avengers, and they deal with the global stuff, and Fantastic Four deals with everything else. You know, they deal with the microverse and the universe, and they're dealing with like Galactus and Eternity and the big guys like that.
Well, the theory is that because of the cover in number 12, it's going to suggest that it's going to focus on a team of kids.
Well, yeah, that's the Future
Yeah.
Foundation.
Yeah.
It's Reed and Sue's two kids, and then you have like a bunch of other scattered characters from other books. You have Leech and Artie from like X Factor. And it's a cool, and you have like one of my favorite characters, Dragon Man, being a brilliant giant dragon robot.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's a
cool
crazy book.
cover.
It's an awesome cover.
Quesada has for 600. Quesada has a play-by-play basically of how he drew that cover online, and it was on his Twitter account actually. If you follow Joe Quesada, and he basically broke down the art direction for that cover, and it's a phenomenal piece, man. The guy still got it.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. Still a great artist.
So more Marvel news here. Everybody's keeping up with the Fear Itself storyline. Apparently, this is more. I guess it's more of a teaser than anything.
Yeah.
But they dropped the news that the new God of Thunder will be revealed to be this guy named Taranus or Taranus, Tomato. Taranus is in actual mythology here on Earth, is the Celtic god of thunder. So at some point he's going to replace Thor, or he's going to be the god, and Thor's going to be on Earth.
He's a very weird looking character.
He is. He's like
Looks like a weird Eternal or a new god.
he does look like a weird Eternal, or he's like the oldest singer of a metal band.
I don't think that they are going to kill off Thor.
No.
I think Thor is going to be in exile or, building an IKEA furniture set or something. He'll be doing something else aside from, they're not killing him off.
Something Nordic.
They spent about like a year and a half now, like rebuilding this character and
Yeah.
building up the ground up. And he was dead before. That's another one that's way too soon.
Right. It is. It's too soon to kill him off. And the way that the story arc of Thor is going, I mean, personally, I think that the only way to really do it is have him go back to, 60s style where he's banished to Earth. He's trapped on Earth and probably work in Donald Blake at some point. With
Some
this,
point.
yeah.
I think so. I mean, they've done like between the regular Thor books, which is a ton of them now, and plus like Journey into Mystery, which is focused on Loki.
Right.
There's a lot of brilliant stuff on there, so I don't really think they're gonna cull all the storyline they've been building on.
Yeah, they can't abandon the character at all. Another thing, same thing with like Hellboy, it kind of ties into it a little bit, is Thor's technically a timeless character. Because he's a god, and you can have these stories that take place eons ago, and you'll still get like new and fresh Thor stuff. The cool thing about that is that you can take a lot of writers in the past few years have taken a lot of the actual mythology and the stuff from like the Poetic Edda and thrown it into the comic books, which is excellent. They're not just relying on the Marvel Universe version of Thor; they're mixing everything in. together.
Absolutely.
You know?
And the fact that you're making this character, who's this, God of Thunder, believable and fun in a world of guys in spandex.
Right. And I still can't get over that Return of Thor and Secret Invasion where Nick Fury basically says that his god has a hammer.
It's such a good line.
The return and Thor shows up.
It's such a good line.
You always want that. Thor is like that big reveal where Thor shows up and just lightning bolts everybody. And for you Queens people out there, or just your New York fans of movies here, some excellent news kind of dropped today. The one scene, I think, or a couple of scenes are going to be filmed for The Dark Knight Rises on the Queensboro Bridge.
That's interesting. Yeah. That'll be nice.
That'd be really, really cool.
I want to see that. I want to see that the car.
Oh yeah, that he's in the car now.
Yeah.
There's like a new vehicle that's being that's out there.
Well, they're saying that it might be the Batwing. You know.
I don't want to see him fly.
You don't want to see him fly?
I don't want to see him fly.
See him grounded. It looks like a bridge thing.
It does.
What do you think they'll do?
With what? The Queensboro Bridge? Probably fight on a bridge.
Yeah.
Drive
They're saying
a
it's
car.
a big fight scene.
Blow it up.
Batmobile parked on one side.
I hope it's not
Batman
on a
runs out.
Wednesday because I got to take the Queensboro Bridge on Wednesdays.
You'd have to take the LIE, bro.
Yeah.
So, they dropped that news today. They're shooting in the fall at the Queensboro Bridge and also at the New York Stock Exchange, which is excellent because, essentially New York City is Gotham City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's cool that they shot predominantly shot most of the other two movies in Chicago, right?
Yeah, and this one they've been shooting a lot of stuff in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. It's going to be an excellent movie. They released that the Anne Hathaway picture last week. Which was kind of cool. And she crashed the Bat Pod, right?
She did. She crashed into one of the camera crews.
Way to go.
Great job, Anne Hathaway.
Awesome. It's also cool that thing actually works.
Yes, that's actually a working Bat Pod motorcycle thing. Dangerous.
I wonder if they let Christian Bale drive around on that.
No.
Not at all, right?
No. They would never let him near anything.
Not even lighting.
Not even lighting. Definitely not lighting.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. It's time for your books of the week. I don't want the robot voice for that. Just,
Books of the week. What do you want for the books of the week?
nothing. Just me. Me's cool.
Okay.
I guess. I was thinking of calling it The Pulse,
Okay.
which, I don't know.
And maybe like a beating heart.
Yeah. A beating. Can you get an image of,
Just like a real heart?
from Temple of Doom?
Yeah.
Just have Mola Ram.
Just do medical pictures of a heart beating.
Yeah.
Just shake it.
I'll bring in a live heart and I'll
That'd
hold
be
it up.
Wonderful.
I want horrifying surgery pictures just juxtaposed to the jovial comic book band.
Can we keep this like a green screen and have operation
heart.
things and
Space battles.
space battles?
Constantly going on.
I want open heart surgery at all.
Just probably put it in the corner. You can get a live feed from Booth Memorial or something.
Awful surgeries going down.
What does one have to do with the other?
Flushing Hospital. How about Flushing?
Oh, that'd be great.
Oh, thank you. No offense to anybody who works at Flushing Hospital.
Respect.
Yeah. That place is 2 seconds away from being Bellevue. All right. Ultimate Fallout number 5 has dropped this week. Continuing the aftermath of the death of Ultimate Spider-Man. No Latino Spider-Man in this issue.
No Latinos.
Why? That's interesting.
It was just like a little teaser, a little press teaser, get everybody's ire up, and then they're like, I'm going to read the next issue. And if honestly, if you're reading the news and you went from like, I hate this or I love it, I want to see what they do with this new Spider-Man, and you read this issue, you will be bored out of your mind. This is
this is mostly Quicksilver, who is basically going to start like a mutant slavery ring.
Yeah.
And start selling mutants to corporations to if we have farmers, we can get this, young African girl to, make the rain happen.
Oh my God.
But it's an excellent take on mutants.
Brilliant.
It's really it's actually a brilliant idea, and it's very good. But like he says, if you're waiting for more Spider-Man, you're not getting it in this issue.
No.
It's awesome. It's very well done, but no way.
The majority of this issue is like a corporate meeting of, like I said.
It's all about money. The whole issue is about money. It's between Quicksilver doing the slavery thing and selling it to the corporation. You also have Nick Fury getting downsized.
Getting a budget cut.
It's a bunch of people yelling about money.
Yeah.
It's just like the New York Post.
But
This comic, it's just like the New York Post.
But it's a phenomenal issue. But then you also get kind of, if you read all through the financial stuff and the whole, which is an awesome thing for like a realistic kind of superhero universe. You have Quicksilver.
That's right.
Betting down a lady from the executive meeting, and then in the middle of him doing his thing, she turns into his sister.
And he the weird thing about Ultimate Quicksilver is that he actually had a weird incestuous relationship with his sister Scarlet Witch.
Which was severely teased at the whole time.
And then you find out they bang.
Yeah.
It's gross.
It's weird. So like he kind of freaks out. He's like, "Get out of my head."
This is a
And she's
really
like,
weird
"What's
book to
wrong?"
talk about.
Yeah, it is. It is.
This is a really, really unusual book. It sounds like it's totally uninteresting.
The ultimate fun. I mean, like it's a good. It's Hickman. Bendis.
It's very good. I enjoy it.
You know.
I enjoy it very much. But in happenstance, like hearing it talk about it, it sounds like it's a very like why is this a comic book?
Well, yeah. I mean, but if you're a fan, you're like, oh, this is the issue where I wonder what happens next.
I love it. I love it.
This is the first, I think, Hickman standalone issue, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
It feels like a Hickman book.
Oh, it's Hickman and Nick Spencer. I think Hickman and Nick Spencer both did it. Hickman did the Nick Fury story, and Nick Spencer did the Quicksilver story, which is pretty cool. You know, and the art, like I think it's Luke Ross did the Quicksilver stuff, and his art kind of harkened back to like that Mark Teixeira style.
It's very washed out colors.
Yeah. The gritty lines and stuff. Next book up is Fear Itself, number 5.
Awesome.
Another fantastic Marvel book. This is the most dominating Marvel story that's going on right now. And the only thing I really don't like about it, I mean, like I love the book itself. I love the core book. But a lot of the stuff is kind of like, pick up these other things, which we'll get to in a minute. Like, pick up these other things that are happening that kind of have something to do with it, but not really. We just kind of want to sell you some more comic books, you know? Like, I wasn't a big fan of the Wolverine one, the tie-in.
I like the Wolverine one.
I don't like the Wolverine and his girlfriend stuff is cool, but it's like...
No, it is. It's like, I think this book is so rapid paced and so fast that you only have time to touch on so much. So they throw out these little threads, which they always do in these big crossovers. So it's like you're rewarded if you're buying all this other stuff, but you really don't need any of this other stuff. Like if you want to see an awesome fight between Thor versus Thing and Hulk, awesome.
Absolutely. That's the comic book you need. The book opens up with a fight between a possessed Hulk and a possessed Thing. You know, and if you're keeping up with her, you want to kind of get interested. Thing got possessed by a hammer, so did the Hulk. Thing essentially looks like molten lava now. You know, you can see it's like he's got black rocks and orange lines in between the rocks, and he's got these two like squid mouths.
He's got two mouths that like encourage fear. The whole thing is like all these big monstrous characters like Juggernaut, Hulk. They all have these Norse hammers, and they're super powerful now. So you have this awesome fight between Thor and like Hulk and Thing, which is just awesome.
Yeah, it's a great fight. You know, he practically kills the Thing in this issue, and
he kills the Thing in this issue.
And he does kill the Thing.
He puts a hammer through his chest. He kills the Thing. He gets brought back to life.
And he demolishes the Hulk. You know, and he like hits him, and he gets rocketed into outer space. And then you're kind of like, oh, what happens? And then you turn the page, and it's like, coming up next, Hulk versus Dracula. And I'm like, you know, you read it and you're like, I don't want to see this.
They've been trying so hard in the last like year or so to push vampires into the Marvel universe, and they've tried so long for so many years to make Dracula a viable like villain. We will never hold him in the same regard as Doctor Doom. He is a shitty character. Yeah, really, really awful character.
And I mean, Tomb of Dracula, which was phenomenal, which happened almost 30 years ago, maybe a little more than
Mustache Dracula.
You know, Mustache Dracula. Like those stories are fantastic. Keep it that way, you know. And he did fight Blade at one point when Blade was like the hip, like black dude, you know, with like the afro and the crazy sunglasses, before he became like the Wesley Snipes vampire.
He looked like a really boring jockey.
He did.
He looked like a really terrible jockey.
And he had like the Wonder Man like Nehru jacket with like without the little rocket packs on the side. The other thing that was pretty fantastic in this issue is you know, Tony Stark gave up his sobriety to talk to Odin. You know, he sacrificed his sobriety to talk to a god, and Odin appears, and you know, he asks Odin for a chance. You know?
Which is going to be leading into the next issue, because they have to combat these guys with hammers at some point.
Yeah, there's 8 guys with these evil hammers, and Tony Stark is petitioning Odin to let him have his workshop so he can make 8, you know, super destructive weapons, which ties into the Mighty, which is coming out soon.
I think it's coming after the next issue.
Yeah. And, you know, it's the Serpent who's Odin's brother, and all the Avengers show up in it. You know, they try to take on the Serpent. Everybody kind of gets decimated. One of my favorite lines is when Spidey swings in and goes, "Hey, Beardo, suck it."
It's a good line.
Somebody loves Queens. Absolutely. And Cap gets his shield broken,
which is a big thing.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. You know, and the way if you can get a close up of the post broken shield Captain America face. Over here,
upsetting.
You know, he's very upset.
And he gets convinced by Spider-Man to go home because they lost the battle.
Yeah,
they just kind of like, you know, we are losing this fight. It's awesome book.
It was kind of like, you know, when you lost the game at Little League, and you're kind of like, what do we do?
Take my
And-
broken shield to go home.
Yeah, and Spidey's like, well, I think my mom's calling.
I got family I
Yeah.
gotta take care of.
I gotta go. Another really cool thing that came out this week too was New Avengers number 15, which is a great little tie-in for the Fear Itself storyline. You know, really
I love this
obscure,
issue.
obscure Marvel character, which is more your forte.
Oh, we're talking about obscure Marvel characters.
Yeah.
So you got this issue, a few issues back in Avengers. You got Luke Cage. You got Jessica Jones on the Avengers. They have a kid together. So they're trying to find themselves a babysitter. So they got themselves a babysitter, and it's this character, Squirrel Girl. So she comes from like old school Steve Ditko stuff. Then she showed up again in the Great Lake Avengers. She's a ridiculous character, but they've given her these weird things where she's basically a girl who looks like a squirrel, and she can control squirrels. But she has this weird history where she fought like Doctor Doom to a standstill. She's gone head to toe with Galactus. So they make her like she's this incredible hero. But this issue focuses on her being stuck in the city and trying to get back. All she cares about is getting back to take care of the baby while Fear Itself is happening. So you get this awesome sequence of her like running through the city, fighting a bunch of dudes. She beats the crap out of Wolverine in a sparring match. It's awesome. And what's awesome, what I love about her is when she introduced her and brought her on the team, they had a weird scene where Wolverine comes down and they kind of like look at each other, and there's so much sexual tension, and they obviously know each other and had some type of weird relationship. So they make her where she's almost like one of the most important characters in the Marvel universe, which is obscene for like a B-level character.
Right, who's half squirrel and half a girl.
Such a good issue.
She's like a phenomenal fighter and all this stuff. You should pick up the issue. It's actually an excellent standalone issue that has to do with Fear Itself, because the concentration is on Squirrel Girl predominantly, you know, and her getting out of class and then seeing the Nazis attack
Nazi
New York.
robots.
And she destroys a bunch of Nazi robots, makes it back to the mansion in time, and then it ends with the mansion being bombarded. With her and her having the baby in her hands. No, excellent.
She got
book.
the baby.
Excellent book. If you're doing the Fear Itself thing, just stick with Fear Itself, and New Avengers is one of the better tie-ins.
New Avengers and Avengers
yeah.
are the two books you should be reading along with it.
Yeah.
And honestly, the Iron Man is probably my favorite one. With all the great gargoyle stuff they've done.
Yeah, that's a really
It's
sad,
a horrifying book.
But to bring you up to speed real quick in like a little line or two, Grey Gargoyle, who could turn people into concrete, essentially, turns the entire
Wall of Paris.
yeah, the entire was it all of Paris or all of France?
I don't know. I think it was all of Paris.
Yeah. He turns everybody into stone, you know, and he's fighting Iron Man in it, and Iron Man essentially, you know, he's fighting him. He crashes into like
Bodies
a
after
mountain of
bodies.
people, you know, and
He's
trying to
buried
recover
alive.
so
It's
bad.
great. There's a great image of like Iron Man underneath a pile of like hundreds of bodies, and he keeps on reminding himself these are not statues; these are dead bodies.
Yeah,
it's
and everybody's
very,
turned to
very
dust.
sobering.
It is for Iron Man.
Sobering.
Another excellent book that came out this week. Jonathan and I are huge fans of the Punisher Max series.
He's pretty good.
You know, it's a good series, and you know, it kind of petered off a little bit after Garth Ennis left the book, but Jason Aaron really took it to the next level of brutality, especially in this storyline. If you can get a quick shot of that right here. New Punisher Max, and the covers have been beautiful too. It was Dave Johnson who did all the 100 Bullets covers. You know, so you have like these really jarring, stoic images in every issue, you know, and like really kind of cool art stuff. So to bring up to speed on this, Punisher gets put in jail. Dudes are after him. The huge reveal in this issue is, you know, what's been building up to is the last thing he said to his wife before his family gets completely murdered in Central Park. And your thoughts?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been kind of teasing this for a while in this whole prison storyline of where, like, what this big reveal of what happened before he became Punisher. Because, you know, Punisher's story is his family was murdered in front of him in Central Park on a nice day. But there's always been this weird thing where in Vietnam, he was a psychopath who killed hundreds of people, and then he has to adjust into his family life. Right. So this whole storyline has been about him adjusting and not doing a very good job of it. So he basically turns to his wife right before they're gunned down and says, I want to leave you. I want to get divorced. This is not the life for me. She's young and she's crying her eyes out, and then she just gets a bullet in the chest. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's a huge, like, redefining, like, messed up moment in Frank Castle's life.
It really is. And the redeeming thing, because like before that, you knew what it was going to be horrible before this issue came out. And I was, as a fan, I was wondering what the redemption is going to be, because it paints him as kind of like an a-hole, you know? But the fact that he turns around and he's in his prison cell thinking about that day and saying, I was essentially put on this earth to suffer.
Yep.
And I have not suffered enough.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to make every single bad guy suffer because this is what I am. You know, I'm this monster that kills these other monsters, you know, and he gets sprung out of jail. There's this guy who's called Big Jesus who's been after him for the past few issues in jail.
Great name.
Like, big Spanish guy. And, you know, the past few issues, he's like, I'm going to get him alone, et cetera, et cetera. And he has like a gang of dudes. And, you know, they think they kill the Punisher in his cell. And he comes out, kills like a crooked officer in the prison, shoots all of Big Jesus' guys. And then Big Jesus is basically like, listen, I was trying to break you out of here, man. You know? And then Punisher turns around and he's like, you know, he's like, spill it, whatever. Tells him that his brother was killed by the Kingpin. You're the only one who could stop the Kingpin, etc. Next page is Punisher. You know, he's wearing like a hoodie and he's out on the street and he says, you know, I snapped his neck to save him from whatever, you know, and he ends up in his old house, you know, in
Being
New York.
homeless Punisher now.
Homeless Punisher now. In
No
front of a
money,
boarded
no
up house.
safe houses.
No guns.
No guns.
No anything, man. Jason Aaron did a really bang up job. And
Tremendous job.
Awesome thing about this too is the fact that Steve Dillon, who's always my favorite Punisher artist, is on the book, you know, with the facial expressions and everything, and he draws such a horrifying looking old Frank Castle.
So good.
Yeah. Little thing here. Also, we're gonna touch on for you Spider-Man fans. Also, who isn't a Spider-Man fan? Amazing Spider-Man number 667 came out this week. This is the first official issue of Spider Island.
Second.
Second. Okay. They're doing the storyline. Dan Slott, who's, you know, obviously a huge Spider-Man fan, he's been writing the book for a while. He's really doing tremendous things with the character. He is doing the story where, well, it's not everybody in New York. It's a lot of people in New York getting.
It looks like it's going to be every single person in New York City, including the superheroes, are infected from the Jackal to get Spider-Man powers. So, like, the big part of it is power without responsibility. It's a bunch of jerk-offs in, like, Spider-Man costume just flying around and robbing places, looting, and Spider-Man dealing with this. Like, his girlfriend has spider powers, but he can't tell her that I'm Spider-Man. This is nothing new for me.
Right, and she keeps, like, hinting at, like, oh, you know, we're a couple, so, you know, we have to tell each other everything, right? And he's kind of like, I guess.
And he tells that line, he has that good line where he's like, this is going to bite me in the ass eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything always goes
He's a miserable person.
to shit with Peter Parker.
He's a
at some
miserable,
point.
it's a miserable life.
I would tell everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm Spider-Man. That's
Yeah,
like, no
absolutely.
secret.
He has my favorite group of powers in, like, all of superheroes. I would love to have, like, all of, like, the Spider-Man stuff. Like,
Stick to walls, spider
swing
sense.
swing through the sky with all that stuff. Like, I mean, in the spider sense and everything. And he has no spider sense right now either, which is awesome.
So he's kind of flying blind, and Shang-Chi, the master of Kung Fu,
Had to reteach him.
Is teaching him how to be an effective fighter like how he used to be. And, you know, the thing with this, for me, is that it's a very ambitious story, you know, and you've gone from really solid Spider-Man stories to this. This kind of harkens back a little bit to the Straczynski Spider-Man run.
Well, yeah, they bring up the weird spider powers he got with, like, the spike that comes out of his forearm. But what's weird about this book is I picked up the other issue that came out too. It was a tie-in. It was like 2 standalone, like, one-shots about Jackal, which is huge, which is like a huge reveal. They actually tell you, like, Gwen Stacy's clone is still alive, and she's like a carry-on's virus, and there's a Hobgoblin storyline there all, but it's very, very pivotal to this. The Cloak and Dagger miniseries just started also, which is tremendous and is very, very good. But honestly, like, everything that they're attaching to Spider Island is excellent. It's very, very good read.
It's an extremely ambitious story, and it's really cool. And you had this one excellent scene. You have a fight scene where the Jackal gives all of these thugs Spider-Man outfits. You know, so you have different versions of Spider-Man swinging through the city, but they're not Spider-Man. They're fooling people, and the Avengers show up and start knocking the crap out of these fake Spider-Men. But then the real Spider-Man shows up, and he can't get a word out because everybody's beating on him. You know, so the issue ends with real Spider-Man among, like, the debris of all the other beaten up Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very good. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. They've reintroduced it's a lot of weird, like, clone storyline stuff they're putting into it, which Dan Slott's done a very, very good job of bringing back, and not going like, we're gonna kill off Spider-Man, we're gonna replace him with a clone. It's just very, very good stuff. Of the success of comics is, especially in Marvel, is constantly building on old stories. There's no such thing as crap. You could always build on top of crap.
Yep.
There's always a way to improve on something like this. And I think the challenge as a writer to really come up with something where you take this awful storyline like Clone Saga was and build on it and make this viable, like very good modern story.
It is, and he's kind of like doing a very lighthearted approach to it too, as far as like everything goes. But it's also very dark at the same time. And you know, I like cool little things like when they had that meeting full of the bad guys, and he had 6 Miles Warrens, and it was the 6 Mile Wide Club.
Yeah, they have the Miles Warren is the Jackal, who was the guy who did all the cloning stuff. But it's I was reading this the other day, and it's creepy that he's had like Spider-Man's had so many professors like try and like rape his girlfriend and kill him.
Yeah,
and Miles Warren is one of the grossest ones.
He is.
He looks like a guy who's doing a bad impression of Einstein.
It's true.
With a mustache.
It's true. I mean, Spider-Man has had some hot girlfriends, you know, and he's a scientist, and he hangs out all these other dorky scientists, except for Doc Ock. Doc Ock tried to bang his aunt.
They got married.
Was it? Yes,
they got married for a day.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Isn't
it weird that Dr. Octopus, like, he never really like stepped back and said, you know, my name is Dr. Octavius, and now I'm an octopus. Like, who'd have thought? Like, perchance to dream that I am now Dr. Octopus.
Oh, a little scientist's dream of being an octopus man. And, you know, speaking of ambitious stories, like this is heading in the right direction, absolutely. This brings us to our next segment, which is a new segment on the show. You know, we're very positive. If you watched the show before, we're very positive about comic books. I like your shirt. We're very positive about comic books.
Wait, it's not a Green Lantern shirt?
No.
Oh, wow, it's a Batman. He wears a Green Lantern shirt. You have like 50 of them.
No, it's the same.
Okay. He wears it every week.
It's a rocket shirt.
That is cool. I got distracted by my little intro. So, you know, we're very positive about comics. We try not to rag on anything. We don't do any snarky stuff. You know, you find that a lot. Comic book fans are always very snarky, and they're just kind of like, you know. Like,
We're not snarky at all.
We're not snarky at all.
No.
Hardy. Snarfy. But we want to do a little 3-minute segment called The Negative Zone.
Don't we do a timer?
Where, can we get 3 minutes?
Yes.
All
I
right.
will start now. Starting.
Beautiful. This is
right
a segment
now.
where we just kind of rag on something that it just kind of tears us up the wrong way. Michael Straczynski, excellent writer, phenomenal writer, a lot of great credentials. He did this, well, I think, like 8-issue story of Superman.
It's still going on. It's
Is
still
it?
going on. The guy leaves the book halfway through, and he still has it going on.
Right.
It is a piece of garbage. It's Superman Grounded, where basically Superman came off a huge storyline where he blew up a new Krypton. There was all these new Superman characters, and then you have basically him walking across America, solving everyday problems.
Forgetting that he's Superman. That was the thing that really, you know, bothered me, is that the last where it says "Grounded No More," and it's the John Cassidy cover where he's flying towards the sun. It's him, you know, coming to the realization that he's Superman. Like, he forgot. You know, you can't have Superman forget he's Superman.
Garbage.
You know, I mean, it's cool. 1 or 2 issues where, you know, he has the pickup game of basketball, but this went
horrible
on forever.
It's horrible.
For the majority of a year, you had Superman walking around like a blue Forrest Gump.
It's just, no, it is. The thing I hate about Superman the most is like when he gets very, very preachy, and this is what this book is. It's a guy walking around is like, you really shouldn't hit your kids because hitting your kids is bad. Like, we know Superman. We know hitting your kids is bad.
Right.
Like, we don't need this in freaking 2000. What are we in, 2011 now?
I think so.
We're in 2011.
Sometimes I think it's 2007.
I almost said 2007. I lost 3 years. Reading this comic book. The comic book is terrible. I left this book. I can't stand it. It's terrible.
I'm a big Superman fan. It was very disappointing, you know, like where he's kind of like, I don't know where to bust these guys who are spilling toxic chemicals into the thing.
Tie a piece of metal around them and put him on a flagpole.
That's it. Kick them into the sun. Superman. I want to do a story where Superman kicks everything into the sun.
This is effectively making them just as bad as the movies.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't want to see Superman doing super stuff. I want to see him walking around and sitting on a park bench.
Again, how much time we got left?
Minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That took 2 minutes?
That took 2 minutes.
We got more.
It's still terrible. It's a really, like, it really moved me away from like buying the book. I bought Superman very, very frequently. I stayed true to it, and this was just such a disappointment and such a downshift. There's something you don't want in a superhero book. It's good for an issue, but don't do this for an entire year.
It's that, and it's also the fact that it just makes Straczynski seem, you know, you put yourself in your work, and it makes Straczynski seem like a right-wing nut job because every issue has the emphasis of truth, justice, and the American way.
I think everyone who writes Superman very powerfully like this is always a right-wing nut job.
You know, and I mean, that's great. That's a great tenet to have. You're Superman, truth, justice, and the American way. But it's so hammered into you, page after page, of like, I thought you stood for this, Superman. And he's like, I guess.
It's so milquetoast and
You
so
have a
middle of the
donut?
road.
You know, and then, you know, it culminates with Clark Kent doing an expose on Superman, and why the world needs him, and he has a change of heart after talking to like Superman fan number 1, who's not Bibbo.
Boo. It's terrible.
All right, we got it. We did it. All right, and now on a super positive note, this week was the final issue of Scott Snyder's run on Detective Comics. Detective Comics number 881. This book has been tremendous.
This has been one of the best Batman books in years.
Yeah. It's essentially Scott Snyder, who his credentials are they're not as major as you would think. He did some work for Marvel. He did a Vertigo book, American Vampire, about vampires in America. But his work on Detective Comics is fantastic, man. This is what detectives should be. It's the embodiment of the story.
Well, everyone who writes Detective Comics at some point, they want to bring it to a gritty outlook. You want Batman to be like the regular superhero book, and you want Detective to be somewhat more of a crime book.
Right.
And that's what this book really did. It became a very much, it's about Dick Grayson being the second Batman, but also you have a big Commissioner Jim Gordon storyline that's running in the background that really builds up to become the main storyline, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah. It's you have two stories kind of interwoven in a few story arcs. You have the main Batman story arc, he's trying to solve murders and be Batman, but it's told through Dick Grayson's voice, and he pretty much defined the voice of the Dick Grayson Batman, where he's kind of lighthearted.
Circus performer.
Yeah, circus performer, wears his heart on his sleeve. Like the narrative is him talking about what his dad taught him in the circus, about how Gotham City is a hungry city.
It's a horrible place to be, and it's corruptible. Very, very good. And what's incredible about it is, so every issue, like until like midway of his run, it's been about for a year. He's taking over the Batman book when they do the relaunch after Flashpoint
with Greg Capullo, I think.
Greg Capullo will be drawing it. They've had two great artists. They have had Jock from Green Arrow Year One and the Losers, and then they have Francesco Francavilla. You said it. He comes in where they introduce this. They reintroduce Jim Gordon Jr., Jim Gordon's son, which hasn't been really around in Batman since Batman Year One. He had this kid they just never really touched on, and he's a psychopath. But what they do great about it is they don't make him an obvious psychopath, where it's mostly about a father who's worried that something's wrong with his son. And he doesn't quite know if he's really like a murderer, because this is a kid who displayed psychopathic tendencies at like a very, very early age.
Right. So you kind of get a little bit of a backstory within the Jim Gordon flashbacks of the little side stories of Detective Comics, where like it's stuff that he kind of thinks his son's crazy, and he talks to Barbara Gordon, who's in the wheelchair, and she's defiantly saying that he is nuts, he's a murderer, he's a psychopath. There's nothing that you could do to redeem this guy. And Jim Gordon playing,
and that he's terribly smart too.
He's
a brilliant dude.
He's an extremely smart guy, and Jim Gordon is the papa of Gotham City. He's the cop that's been there forever and wants everybody to go home after a hard day's work and have like a nice night, And it's just the fact that this character gets introduced at the beginning, and then at one point Freeze takes the Joker toxin from the Joker, and there like some great Joker stuff comes into play in this issue. Actually, some of my favorite Joker stuff,
Yeah.
where Joker he ingests his own Joker toxin, and since he's immune to it, he drank so much of it that it's coming out of his skin.
Yeah.
So they're trying to put him in Arkham. People who touch him are getting Joker toxined, etc. But Snyder's done such a bang up job with this book. Man.
It's so tough to really create a new villain at this point, and that's what it really is. They really bring him to the forefront, where this is a guy who could stand up with Joker. Jim Gordon's son he takes over the book, and he becomes one of the better characters. When he's introduced midway through the storyline, if you can pick up these issues, please do.
Yeah.
Midway, they really have a strong issue where all it is Jim Gordon and his son sitting in a diner, and you don't know if he's a murderer yet. You don't know if he's a complete psychopath. And it's frightening. It's written it's just as well as the best thrillers out there.
It really is. He's kind of hinting at the fact that he's done all these terrible things, but he's completely nuts, and not nuts in like a villainy kind of roguish kind of way. He's just certified. He's a real, a person that you knew was a psychopath and just did not have the proper emotions that he was supposed to have. And he's telling Jim Gordon that he's on this medication, and and then it's revealed that the medication worked for a little bit, but he reversed the medication so he can feel absolutely nothing. And his whole thing is that the thing I really dug about this is the fact that James Gordon is essentially now Dick Grayson's Joker.
Yep, he is like the anti Jim Gordon, like anti Dick Grayson.
Yeah, Dick Grayson is
overly empathetic with everybody.
You know, and like the really cool thing too is that you really show the burden that was placed on Dick Grayson through these issues. You know, like he has that weight of Batman. He has like this insurmountable weight of Batman, and the Joker can sense it too. You know, even though he's behind the mask, he confronts the Joker at one point, and he's like, "You don't smell like my Batman. You know, I smell a little bird." You know, and they do this whole excellent thing, and you know, it culminates with Jim Gordon kind of shooting his son in the legs and saving him from dying off a bridge, like from falling off a bridge. You know,
so he'll still be around.
Yeah,
like this is a character that's going to be around for many years.
And I hope he shows. I know, and it's sad that, you know, it took this long for somebody to finally write Dick Grayson in an extremely good way, and now he's going to be Nightwing again.
Nightwing, yeah, they're taking it away.
But Snyder, man, like this story arc, even with like the Jock stuff was excellent, but I really like the Francesco Francavilla stuff. It's like the Azzarello Riso team up. You know, on 100 Bullets, and even that awesome Batman story arc with the albino Killer Croc.
Absolutely, and it's beautiful art. It's really, really beautiful art. Like read Scott Snyder, read his DC stuff. You'll see him in Swamp Thing. You'll see him in a lot of stuff over the course of next year.
Yeah, he's doing the new Swamp Thing. This the post 52 thing. He's doing the post Flashpoint stuff with Greg Capullo, who hasn't really been around for a while.
Nope.
You know,
all Spawn all the time.
Guarantee you, his art is going to be fantastic.
Yeah. I think so. I think it'll be a great book.
He's going to come back with a vengeance, man. All right, cool. I think that about wraps it up for today, everybody. Thanks for watching. This is the first episode, right? First official episode of Behind the Counter with Rich and John.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm coughing. Look at this. You got me nervous.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all next week, guys.
All
Good
right.
night.
Ciao.